Are some New York City public high school students getting a lot more opportunities to take part in athletics than others? Well, the issue of sports equity is turning into an ongoing battle between a group called NYC Let Em Play and the PSAL, the Public School Athletic League. Now, according to Let Em Play, the crux of the argument comes down to racism. The PSAL has stated in so many words that is not the case. Now, for the record, we did ask officials from the PSAL to appear on BK Live. However, they declined our offer to discuss this matter. Right now, joining us in the studio are two seniors from the International Community High School in the Bronx, Hassanatou, Samake. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also another senior is Sory, Konate. With them, welcome also.
Thank you.
With them is also one of the key figures in this whole controversy, David Garcia-Rosen, a dean at the same school who has been suspended by the Department of Education. We'll ask him about that in just a moment, but before we get into that, let's take a look at the protest that precipitated David's suspension back in March.
A completely segregated high school.
Let's go. Let's go. Folks, if you do not leave the chambers, you will be arrested. Walk out of the chamber.
Your PSAL is separate and unequal.
Civil rights matter. 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 Let them play. 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 Let them play.
Attention! This city council hearing is now called to order. Testifying first, high school student from NYC Let Em Play, Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
17,000 students of color go to a high school for sport. Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
Because I'm a black student, I'm twice as likely to go to a high school with no sports. Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
I am a Hispanic student, and my civil rights matter. I deserve the same opportunities as a white student. Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
Under your watch, the PSAL took away our baseball, soccer, and softball teams. Why would you let them do this? Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
Last month, the PSAL was found in violation of Title IX by the Office of Civil Rights. The PSAL is also violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Why do you support leaders who ignore the rights of girls, black students, and Latino students? Chancellor Farina.
Civil rights matter.
71,000.
Now, that happened on March 25th of this year. The next day, David Garcia-Rosen was canned, he was suspended, and now he's in the so-called rubber room. Explain to us how that whole process went down.
Yeah, I mean, for years, since 2011, we've been very clear that black and Latino students deserve the same access to high school sports as white students. And our research shows very clearly that white students in New York City have a different experience with high school athletics than black and Latino students. Now, we used King's 6 steps of nonviolent social change. We taught the students about it, and we educated, we negotiated, we attempted very hard to get the DOE to do the right thing, and then we decided that we had to do direct action and civil disobedience.
But the DOE and the PSAL stated, hey, it's a lack of facilities. You guys just can't not do this, especially have the sports like a soccer, football, basketball, because you lack the facilities.
Right. The United States Department of Education Office of Civil Rights said clearly that the district can't use lack of facilities as an excuse for violating the civil rights of black and Latino students. So what we've told the DOE is let's take a look at how many courts and how many fields we have and share them and make sure that every field and every court that the DOE controls is equitably shared amongst all the students. Now, the students didn't choose to be segregated in a small high school with no field or court. That's Sory and Hassanatou didn't say, oh, please put me in a school with no soccer field. It's not a choice.
The lawsuit, how's that going against the DOJ?
It's going, yeah, I mean, it's going great. The federal government is looking at our complaint. It's a strong complaint. Many lawyers have looked at it. The National Women's Law Center, you know, they did an investigation also. UCLA said New York City is the 3rd most segregated urban school system. So, you know, it's very clear. New York City, separate and unequal. That's the reality, and it's sad.
Your participation in this, how do you guys feel about this so far? What have you learned also about civil disobedience and also going up against the system, because you're going up against a strong bureaucracy when you talk about Department of Education, when you talk about the PSAL? And also, they're stating that you guys like the facilities, maybe some of the coaching. It's all types of aspects because schools like Tottenville High School, they have 44 teams. When I heard they have a junior varsity golf team. They have junior varsity soccer. They have various teams. They have a strong tradition when it comes to this. Now, the PSAL has been around for over 105 years now, from what I gather. So how do you guys feel about this right now? What's going on?
We feel like our rights are not being protected. If they talk about facilities, we used to play last year with what we have. So why can't we just keep on playing with what we have? Because we didn't ask for 44 teams. We only asked for 6 teams of our choice, not what they will give us. Because we are the one playing and we get to choose what we want.
I think so. Like we come from poor countries in the world, and so we have soccer there. So we couldn't imagine that we're gonna come to one of like the developed countries in the world and like sport just because of our color or because of our origin, and like the Daniel Douglas and Eric Goldstein, which are the head of the PSAL, made excuses last year that they not long ago at the PEP meeting that they are trying hard, but they have been in this position for years. And like the civil rights.
But it says it's a matter of funding also, and they also say, Dave, I spoke to in the PSAL, some folks I spoke to off record, you know, I'm not going to display any names. They said, Dave, you are a bad influence on these kids because you're leading them down to these protests every Wednesday. You're in front of City Hall, and you're disrupting their educational process.
This is the ultimate civics lesson and history lesson. Martin Luther King Jr. was very clear that when your civil rights are being violated, there's 6 steps you follow.
No.
Step 5 is direct action. Now, we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day in our schools, right? All the kids don't have to go to school that day. So it's great to celebrate him. If they want to go on a trip to Washington, D.C. and miss 3 days of school to go to the King Monument, that's all great. But if you actually walk in his path and follow his guidance, then somehow that's wrong. I think that what we're doing with the students is in the spirit of the civil rights movement of Dr. John Carlos, Tommy Smith from the '68 Olympics, and Martin Luther King Jr.
To add on to that, David is not leading us in any way. We at NYC Let Em Play, we are the students who do not have access to sports. We are the one who stood up for ourselves. When we went to City Hall that day, we are the one who spoke. David didn't speak. Ms. Damaro didn't speak. Anyone didn't speak. We spoke from our hearts because we are hurt that we don't have sports. So David has nothing to do with.
Speaking from the heart, you're from Mali,
Yes.
and you've been here about 2 years, right?
Yes,
now you
almost.
stated, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing you because there was also a presentation held at Prospect High School May the 20th, which was
Yes.
about a few weeks ago. You stated during that basically in your country you were able to play soccer, but you come to America where, you know, the streets are supposed to be lined with gold and the land of milk and honey, and you can't kick a ball.
Yes, that's actually true. I'm from Mali, and we are a country in the process of development, but we're not yet developed with corruption and everything. But we have access to sport. We play sport full year. Spring, summer, all the times we play sports. We have uniforms, and we don't even have a lot of money to get food. Not everyone eats food, but we have sports. So how can you believe that you are in America where they claim to be a country of freedom and equality, and you don't have access to no sports just because of your skin color?
Now, also, Dave, the DEOE also put out a statement in so many words that, just paraphrasing also, the small school athletic league, right, has 109 sports. You're stating that it's been brought down to 84 or 24 teams?
24. Look, all they did was create a mirage. So they took the developmental league and renamed it SSAL Developmental. They took the transfer league, renamed it SSAL Multiple Pathways League. The PSAL and the DOE for over a decade now plays fuzzy math, lies, and excuses. And the choice for the de Blasio administration is, are we going to embrace and defend these decades-old lies of the PSAL, or are we going to embrace the group that's actually brought solutions and vision to this problem and bring an end to the Tale of Two Cities? That's the choice here.
Here's the other question also. This seems to be an immigrant problem to me, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm reading. Has the local black high school student, the local black high school athlete, or just students in general, have they embraced your struggle?
We went to many workshops where we got to speak and say who we are and what we're doing, and we got support. People follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and they also join us on the Wednesday protest in front of City Hall. So we've been supported by many people.
Dave, have you been supported? Because also, it's, like I said, it seems to be a problem from what I'm looking at.
No, it's a problem citywide. I mean, let's just look at Brooklyn.
And also Brooklyn, where does Brooklyn
let's look
fit
at
in
Brooklyn.
this?
We got 5,000 high school students in Brooklyn with no sports at their high school. 14,000 with almost nothing. This spring, when crime is up supposedly, 6,000 boys have no sports this spring in Brooklyn. 8,000 girls have no sports this spring in Brooklyn. We need to engage our students in sports. And you know what? Tottenville, their teams, 44, those are not 100 years old. They got badminton and table tennis last spring. Brooklyn Technical, which is the whitest high school in Brooklyn, has 42 teams. They didn't get all those teams 100 years ago. They got a lot of those teams just last year while they were telling these guys, you can't have soccer and you can't have basketball. So when the PSAL defends the system, what we really need to look at is also in Brooklyn, we have 21,000 students at a segregated high school. That's the issue here.
On the surface, it looks like everyone's playing. I just got to tell you that. From my perspective, I didn't find out that this was a problem until it was addressed to me by my news director. Now, the other question is, as we proceed forward, how will we move on from this point now?
Yeah, look, we're hopeful today.
Right.
You know, the chancellor invited us to meet with her chief of staff, so we are hopeful that the Department of Education and the mayor are taking a new look at this and realizing it's time to embrace solutions and stop defending the failed leaders and policies of the past.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Thanks,
And also,
Michael.
good luck.
Thank you.